Hey, gun people. Well, more from the Uvalde Robb Elementary shooting. More screw-ups by the cops, teachers, everybody's freaking lawyering up. That's if you've been watching my videos on all these interviews where these cops are doing really, really bad interviews and they don't ask the right questions. This is why I always say you usually only get one shot at interviewing a suspect. Once you get that shot, they usually lawyer up and stop talking, which is all what they're doing. The teacher that propped the door open and now that shut the door and the lock didn't lock, her lawyer is saying it's not her fault. She thought the door was locked. She even went out there and tried to lock it. It's the lock's fault. Okay, great. And of course, the chief of police is upset that the DPS said that he didn't make the right decision and it was a bad decision. So now he's not cooperating and he's lawyered up, even though he's still getting police protection. So I'll get into a little bit more about him. I wanted to get in these rounds here. The mass shooter brought 1,000 rounds of ammo. Look, 1,000 rounds of ammo, if you get it shipped, it will come in a box something like this. I didn't go out and measure mine, but I've looked at several sources, and it comes out to about 25 to 27 pounds. That's just the ammo. That's not loading it into a magazine. Each magazine has weight. And so, I mean, if he's carrying around 1,000 rounds and they're saying he carried 1,600, he's carrying 30, 40, maybe 45 pounds. He's 18 years old. He didn't look that freaking strong to me. I just don't believe he might have bought 1,000 rounds, but for me, it's not adding up. If you look at the shipping weight of 223 rounds, they said 100 rounds weighs about 2.69. If you multiply that by 10, you get about 26 pounds. So, I mean, look, 25 to 27 pounds is just the ammo. And don't forget, he dropped most of that at the door. So, of course, CBS is saying that the soldier carries 210 rounds into combat. That's not necessarily true. Depending on where we're going to have extra ammo. 210 is normally what we carry for if you're going out on a recon mission or maybe a day patrol or a night patrol. Usually carries 7 rounds. That's what most people carry for a normal load in the military. You get 6 rounds that you're carrying and 1 in your gun, 7 mags, 30 rounds each. Comes out to 210. I'm not going into combat with just that. If I'm going into combat, we're going to have extra rounds, extra guns, etc. You multiply that by the number of people. So to make it seem like, oh, he carried whatever. I mean, look, they're saying he's carrying 1,600 rounds. That's heavy. Even 7 mags starts adding weight. But you get 1,600 rounds if 1,000 is 26 pounds. I mean, it's adding up quick. So they're saying 315 rounds were found inside the school. Okay, so 315, let's see. Of the 315 in the school, 142 were fired. They said he fired hundreds of rounds. That's conflicting. It says 142 spent casings. 173 were live rounds, which means they weren't fired. Okay? He also had 922 rounds outside the school, but on the school property. I'm assuming that's in the bag he dropped, which is a heavy bag with a lot of rounds. If he fired 22 rounds and there were 900 live rounds. Okay? So if he had 900 rounds, he had 30. That was additional 30 mags. Now they're saying investigators found 60 mags total. That's not adding up. 58 in or around the school. That would have been 900 rounds, but they only hold 30 rounds, so that's not accurate. And again, this is if and buts and coconuts kind of minor stuff. To me, the rounds aren't important. They're just making it seem like if we only got rid of the rounds. If the cops would have went in, doesn't matter how many rounds he's got. He doesn't have time to use them. That's why you go in. This article breaks down a little bit more of the rounds, kind of like how many magazines did he have. He had an additional 2 magazines in the shooter's home, 58 mags at the crime scene total. 58 mags. So 58 rounds times 30, you're looking what, 1,700 rounds almost? I mean, that's a lot of rounds, a lot of mags, if he was carrying all those. I mean, how does a guy who works at Wendy's afford 2 high-priced ARs, a $600 sight on one of his ARs, and 58 mags? Mags are, what, 20 bucks each? Maybe 25 now? So he has 58 mags on 2 guns that he just bought and 1,600 rounds, which is expensive, about $1 a round. This should all be questions in the investigation. Police found 11 mags inside the school, 2 in room 112, 6 in room 111, and 3 on the shooter's body. How many mags were found inside the school? Police found 32 magazines outside the school. Oh, I'm sorry, I said outside. 1 outside, 32 in the backpack, which was left. So he dropped his backpack because it was freaking heavy. How many mags were found in the shooter's crash pickup truck? 15 mags at the pickup. Total 1,600 rounds. Where did he get all the money to buy all those? Look, I have a lot of magazines. I'm not sure I have 58 mags. I mean, I have a lot of mags. I know I got more rounds than that, but that's a different thing. Police found 315 rounds of ammunition inside the school. 142 were fired. 173 were not fired. So, again, he had time to fire these because cops were outside letting him fire. He wasn't taking fire from cops. He wasn't ducking with suppressive fire. You have 19 cops. If only half of them shot at him, he couldn't shoot. But Rick, they had orders and they had to stay and they have to follow their orders. Shut up, freaking pussy coward cops. All right, anyway, police found 922 rounds outside the school. 22 were spent. 900 were alive. That's because he ran. That's because people came up to him and he thought he had to get to cover. That's because he was able to enter the school because the door wasn't locked per training they just had a couple months ago. 422, how many officers responded to the shooting? Police officers' initial response to the school. After minutes later, there were 19 officers in the hallway where it happened. Minutes afterwards, they had 19. Now, they're not saying how many were outside because see, notice how I kind of skirted that issue. How many officers? McGraw said 7 officers initially responded. And then about minutes later, 19 officers were there for the whole time while these kids are getting slaughtered, not shooting, not going in. Officer safety. They had to protect themselves. Good thing no officers. Officers are out there today proud. Hey, we did a good job. No officers were hurt doing this thing. Good job, officers. Wow, you guys are good at keeping yourselves safe. 19 officers there. They're tasing and pepper spraying students or parents, handcuffing parents, and they only fired 13 rounds when they entered. 27 in room 111. They got 11, but it's room 111, and 8 in the hallway. Wow. Wow. Good job, officers. We need more money, so officers, they didn't have enough equipment, Rick. That was the problem. Okay. So the first initial cops that got there, they fired 6 times. Uvalde school shooter fired at least 6 times after being. So they're not even saying how many times the cop fired. I don't know if the cops fired at all. If they only fired when they went in, that's where all these rounds are coming from, which means no cop fired or engaged the shooter from the jump street. Total failure. And any cops out there defending this, they're just defending cowardness. While the 19 brave hero cops were outside listening to kids getting slaughtered, the shooter fired at least 6 different occasions. 6 times. Every time he found a kid that wasn't playing dead. Every time a kid called 911. Every time those scared kids were trying to survive while 19 cops were in a hallway. Rick, they were under orders. It wasn't their fault. Oh, man, I can't believe people are buying this. So like normal in all government failures, it's always, it wasn't my fault. It was too big. We didn't have communication. We didn't have enough ammo. We thought so-and-so. I didn't know who was in charge. I didn't. You know what? That means you got too much damn government. That's the problem. Here's the coward police chief that has police protection now that is failing to cooperate with the investigation. The police chief, Pete, the Peterless punk pussy, bunch of peas. Pete decided he has stopped cooperating. He made a decision to not confront the gunner, and he has stopped cooperating with state investigators, not responded to requests for information for over 2 days. The agency walked back the assertion that the teacher propped the door open, allowing the gunman to enter, killed 19. So see, now they're backing up. Uh-oh, this sounds too bad. This is really showing our government. If we keep allowing information that shows our incompetence, then we can't sell the narrative that we need to take your guns to keep you safe. Absolutely outrageous. Okay, so the chief, the pink Peter, the pussy chief of Uvalde, isn't answering information right now. So my guess is DPS is conducting this, has an internal investigation. Abbott needs to freaking start a criminal investigation on criminal conduct, and they need to arrest the chief for obstruction of a criminal investigation. He has information about these murders of these children, and he is withholding that. He is at a minimum a material witness, and they can lock him up for that. And you know what? All these cops, all these brave heroes who are defending the cops, they arrest you and me and any other citizen for filming them, obstruction, interference with a police officer. They'll arrest you. Meanwhile, this chief is getting police protection, and none of these cops, including the Attorney General of freaking Texas and the governor, can't say, you know what? You don't have an option not to cooperate. You're freaking cooperating, or we're arresting your ass and charging you with obstruction and interfering with a criminal investigation of a homicide of 18, 19 kids. How about that? I'm telling you, man, you don't want me in this. I've told the story where I went after the probation officer because he wouldn't let me record one of his freaking prisoners, and he was the probation officer in Yolo County. And when you start dealing with the head probation officer, the head DA, the head of the public defender, the head of agencies, all those guys are county cronies. They're all buddies. They all have meetings about budgets. They all get their stories together, and they all work together. So they don't like when somebody goes after them. Well, this freaking probation officer chief thought he was freaking above the law and was like, no, I'm not letting you sneak a microphone in here because I was chasing a kid and the grandmother was visiting the sister. So I knew that she was going to talk about where they're at. So I want to record a conversation. He goes, no, there's no recording in my jail. And I went, you know what? I came back with a fucking warrant. I was going to arrest his ass. I got the DA to sign off on it. I got a judge to sign off on it. The DA looked at me before he signed it and goes, you really want to do this? You really want to go in and arrest this guy? I go, he's obstructing investigation. I've got a child that's missing. And he's like, all right, I'll sign off on it. It ain't going to go well. He signed off on it. When I took it to the judge to sign the damn warrant, the judge is like, man, are you sure you want to do this? I go, yeah, I'm sure I want to do it. He goes, the DA knows about this? I go, yeah, he signed a warrant. He goes, I got to call him. He wouldn't even sign it, even though, I mean, he thought I was like freaking so crazy I was going to forge the DA's freaking signature. He calls the DA and he goes, yeah, I signed it. That's what he wants to do. It's his investigation. I'm going to back him. And so the judge goes, okay, I'm signing this. Good luck. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes or some shit. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I went in there and guess what? I recorded it. And you know what that piece of shit did? He knew where I put up the recording to record this guy, and the probation officer had him bring the visit to a different cell. I tried to charge his ass with obstruction afterwards, and the DA wouldn't let me do that. He goes, I'll file an order to show cause. He took him to court and made him justify what it was. And of course, government incompetent. We made a mistake. They just put him in the wrong room. There was no intent. And nothing happened. They obstructed. I ended up getting the kid later anyway, but it was just, that's how government works, and people don't understand that. But cops will arrest you and me for obstruction. Why ain't they arresting this chief? His ass ought to be in jail. Then we don't have to spend taxpayer money guarding him. We'll let the prisoners guard him since he's right at home with his fellow crooks. So I have all my conspiracy guys out here saying, you know, this is BS and I'm promoting this and I'm full of crap too because this is all a fake false flag. No kids died. This is just a way to get the guns. Look, there's no doubt in my mind the government wants to get our guns. And there's no doubt they'll lie and they'll do some shit. But you are not going to convince me that you got a bunch of people. A few days ago, you couldn't convince me that 19 cops would stand in a hallway and not enter when kids are getting slaughtered. So you know, the failure and incompetence of government never ceases to amaze me. But I'm not to the point to where government knew this and allowed kids to get killed and set this up and told officers to stand down just so kids would get killed just to push the gun agenda. I'm not that far yet, but there's a lot of inconsistencies here.
For a second day of funerals, state officials say they are no longer hearing from the school district police chief.
If Rick Gore was running this investigation, I'm going to arrest him. I ain't even getting a warrant. I don't even need to get a warrant. I can probable cause arrest his ass on the spot. You freaking cooperate with this investigation and your ass is going to jail, getting booked today, right now, No ifs, and buts, or coconuts. This is bullshit they're allowing him to do that. But I digress. Here we go.
Blamed for the delayed response to the school massacre.
The school
and the story
massacre
of how things unfolded the day of.
Not because of the gun, not because good people had a gun, not because good people have high capacity mags, not because good people buy ammo. The massacre occurred for several reasons, but it has nothing to do with good people owning guns, and that's what the government's going for.
Of the shooting is changing once again. ABC's Justin Finch joins us from Washington with the very latest. Justin, good morning.
Mona, good morning. Several law enforcement sources tell ABC News Uvalde Schools police chief's refusal to cooperate came after the Texas Public Safety Director criticized that delayed response.
They told me I did wrong. See, I was calling DPS pussies at the Jump Street for covering because they knew it was bullshit and they were trying to cover for this chief. And I was calling them pussies. And now they called him out because the heat got so bad. They're like, look, we're looking bad. Let's throw this chief under the bus because it was his decision. We can't defend him anymore because it's making us look bad. So then they throw him under the bus like he should be. He should be dragged by the bus. He should be run under the bus several times. They throw him under the bus, and now he plays the pussy card and go, I'm not going to cooperate. How do you think that? Oh, no problem. I got a pussy answer for that. Your ass is going to jail. How about that? You like them apples? Let's go.
Robb Elementary, that as Uvalde now begins days of final farewells. At Uvalde's Sacred Heart Catholic Church, a final farewell for 10-year-old Amory Jo Garza.
A part of Uvalde and her is just gone from my heart.
People need to be angry
Garza
about this,
and
but
10-year-old
their anger needs to be directed at the source. The killer is dead. We can't do much about that. We damn sure can do something about the total failure of the school to lock the doors, to ensure the doors are locked, to lock the schoolrooms. Remember, the shooter got in a schoolroom and 19 cops couldn't breach the door because they didn't have a key card. So the shooter can get in, but 19 cops can't. The blame goes on government, the schools, and not lawful gun owners and lawful people who own rifles and large capacity mags to defend ourselves, because we know that government will never defend us. That needs to be the narrative.
Maite Rodriguez both laid to rest Tuesday. Father Eduardo Morales is presiding over at least 12 funerals for victims of the Robb Elementary Department of Public Safety confirming a Robb Elementary teacher re-entering the building after seeing the suspect.
She's re-entering the building and locked the door. Now, remember, people, this is what spin looks like. Why was she going out a door that didn't require a key card in the first place? Why was she able to enter in a door that was supposed to be locked? Does she have a key? Is there a key card? Does she use a key card? I don't know. We don't know. These are the questions that they need to be answering, and they're not, because it makes government look like the total failure they are, and it switches the focus from the bullshit narrative of it's the gun, the magazine, and the ammo's fault, and it's not the murdering piece of shit kid and the incompetent government, teachers, and incompetent response of law enforcement.
That crashed his truck before the shooting and called 911. Her lawyer telling the San Antonio Express News she saw the armed suspect, went back inside the school and closed the door, adding she thought the door would lock because that door is always
one time. Did she have a key? Did they check the door? I'm venturing if I go to that door right now today and shut it, it locks. Shocking. That's easy to disprove or prove. That is easy to disprove or prove, and they're not going to disprove or prove it. They want to keep this narrative to muddy the water.
Supposed to be locked. This, as state officials say, Uvalde Schools Police Chief Pete Arredondo is no longer cooperating with its investigators after his initial interview. Law enforcement sources say Uvalde Police and Uvalde Schools Police are also not complying.
But you know what? Their ass is going to jail too. How about that? I'll arrest the whole damn department. I'll arrest everybody who obstructs us. You got 19 dead kids. This is more government failure. They can go out and freaking shut down businesses for not wearing a freaking mask because you don't do it. They'll bring 14 cops and shut down your business. Suddenly they can't get police officers and a police chief to cooperate, I call bullshit.
Several law enforcement sources tell ABC News Arredondo's refusal comes after the Texas DPS director called Uvalde's police delayed response the wrong decision.
It was the wrong decision. And any cop defending it is bullshit. And he's continuing the lie. And any cop defending this is an absolute poser. There is no cop worth his salt that was ever a real cop. I'm not talking about a ticket writing pussy. I'm talking about a real cop. No real cop is going to defend this. I guarantee you, all my partners absolutely agree. I talked to a buddy of mine at work, Oakland PD, the other day. Absolutely agrees. He can't believe they freaking stayed out there. I said, dude, come on. I said, you know me. I'd have went like, what? We're not going in. Get out of my fucking way. I'm going in. And he was like, hell yeah, we would have went in. And he retired from Oakland PD. But anyway, I digress. Total government failure. So we're going to get more info. It's going to keep coming. But again, we're getting bits and pieces. And remember, government's theory on this is always drag it out. It's a current investigation. It's an ongoing investigation. We can't. There should be a complete report released, just like, I mean, the 911 freaking book that came out was bullshit anyway. So, I mean, even if they release it, they're still going to be able to hide shit. But again, why aren't there not one cop speaking out saying it was bullshit and I wanted to go in? Not one cop with balls is giving an interview saying it was a bullshit call, it was wrong, I wanted to go in. I guarantee you there are cops that are on that scene that wanted to go in. Oh shit, I wanted to cover the other dude. So I heard a lot about this Border Patrol agent that grabbed a shotgun and went in and killed the killer. This guy did not shoot the shooter. He did grab a shotgun from his guy because he didn't have a gun in the car or whatever. I mean, I don't know why. I can't imagine. I mean, like I said, even today, I have an AR, I have an AK, and I have several pistols in my car. I just can't imagine a cop working not having guns in their car. But anyway, he has to bar. He's at the he's getting his hair cut, and his barber gives him a shotgun. Now, I'm not taking anything from this guy. He ran. He tried to get his kid out. He's found out his wife was safe. But he did not shoot the shooter. He didn't fire a round. And let's hear.
Border Patrol agent Jacob Alvarado, who was off duty at the time, has a daughter in the 2nd grade at Robb Elementary, and his wife teaches in 4th grade. When she texted him about the horror that was unfolding, he rushed to the scene. We're going to talk to him in just a moment.
His arm, he had a soldier surgery. He didn't get hurt at the scene before somebody says, man, he shot the shooter with a shotgun he got from the barber shop, and the shooter got it. All right, easy now.
But first, his story. Jacob Alvarado was just sitting down at his local barber shop for a haircut when he received a terrifying text from his wife, Trisha, a 4th grade teacher at Robb Elementary School, who wrote simply, "There's an active shooter. Help. Love you." Armed with a shotgun loaned to him by his barber, he raced to the school just blocks away where his wife, an 8-year-old.
So I'm not taking anything away from this guy. He went there, he got a gun, he took action, he charged into the school. He got kids out, and he got his daughter out. I'm okay with that. The part I'm okay with is he was allowed in because he was government, and other parents were kept out, handcuffed, and pepper sprayed because they weren't. That's my problem. That's not so much on him as it is that's how government works, people. They are not your friend. Government protects government. This bullshit about taking guns from good citizens so only government can have guns, this is how government gets to be a special hired class, and pesky citizens get to be a low, shut up, you pesky citizen class.
Daughter Jada, a 2nd grader, were locked down inside. Alvarado, an off-duty Border Patrol officer, says he joined other officers and started evacuating children from the school. He later learned his wife and her students had hid under desks, his daughter forced to take shelter in a locked bathroom. The father began clearing classes, guiding students to safety while searching for his own little girl.
Okay, so he's searching for his girl. He knows his wife's across the street, and he still gets other kids out. Look, I'm all good with this. The problem is there was a lot of other parents that could have done that, and they weren't allowed because they weren't government. It wasn't government protecting. They weren't given a special privilege of him. He got to carry a gun out of uniform. and no cops challenged or arrested or told him to stay out. No. Because he was a cop, he was allowed to do it. That's government protecting government. So it's easy to be a hero when the cops and government allows you to go in and do things. So that's what I'm taking away from this guy. Don't come here and hate on me because I'm hating on this guy saying he did a good thing. I'm not saying he didn't do a good thing. I'm saying it's bullshit that the cops allowed him to do that, and they handcuffed, pepper sprayed, and tased other parents that were trying to do that. That's what I'm calling bullshit on.
He says 2 officers provided cover with guns drawn while he and others led young children and their teachers to safety. Once he knew his wife and daughter were safe, he continued, led young children and their...
I'm not sure if this is him or not. Here's a guy in plain clothes with a shotgun. Why isn't he... How do we know he's not the active shooter? How come he's allowed to have a shotgun in plain clothes? I'm off. I think every parent out there should have had a freaking gun. I think the whole neighborhood should have came out with guns and surround. I think if they'd have let the parents go in with guns, this thing would have ended sooner, and we'd have less dead kids. But Rick, we may have a dead parent. So what? We'd have less dead kids, and that's the goal when kids are being slaughtered. For all you cowards that keep talking about the cops are safe and it would have been a slaughter. They went in anyway and engaged the guy. They could have done that an hour before and got the same result. This shit about they couldn't have went in. Somebody said the chief said the cops would have got slaughtered or got shot if they went in. That's why I didn't want them going in. That's the typical coward government response. Leave the helpless sheep children in a room with a guy killing them just so a brave policeman with a gun and a vest may get hurt. Absolutely outrageous.
Criticism of the official response to the deadly school shooting that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Senior law enforcement officials say more than 30 minutes passed before federal officers...
30? Now we're looking at 77 to 80 minutes. I mean, 30 is outrageous. But they keep this misinformation out. Wow, look at all this government. Look at all these great people. Wow. Wow, man.
Overrode guidance to stand by. The teenage gunman was killed more than an hour after he entered the school. The Justice Department will now conduct a critical incident review. As for Alvarado...
That always helps. Government doing a review afterwards to tell you what the problem is. Here's the outcome of the review. If he didn't have high-capacity mags and didn't have access to a mean AR assault rifle that police use, that government uses, then the kids would have been safe. Perfect. 19 cops, 19 government employees outside with mean AR rifles, and they don't enter.
He says he only did what he was trained to do. And joining me now is Border Patrol Agent Jacob Alvarado. It's good to see you.
Good morning.
I should mention you had shoulder surgery.
Yes,
this is not related to the events at the school, but you're doing okay.
Yes, I'm doing good.
How is the community of Uvalde doing? I mean, you were born and bred there. This is such a wound to the whole community.
They're suffering. Yeah, they're trying their best to get everyone there.
We were just talking about your wife. She was a 4th grade teacher there. She's going to 2 funerals today.
It's I don't know if it's necessary today. It's either today or tomorrow. But yeah, she's dealing with that right now. She couldn't make it.
Yeah. There's so much loss here.
So it sounds like the teacher that opened the door lived. When it first started, the teacher that left the door open was in one of the classrooms, and she got killed. Now that she lived, she has a lawyer. She gets protections. It's not her fault. It's the door's fault. Okay.
Let's go back to that day. You were off duty.
Yes.
And
I was getting ready to have my surgery. I was supposed to have my surgery Tuesday. It didn't happen. The award ceremony. I was there earlier that morning.
At the school.
Yeah. So I stayed around town, had breakfast with my mom, washed my car, got my car clean, and was fixing to go get my hair cut.
And tell me about the text you received.
My barber actually heard shots, or he thought he heard shots. He was coming through the parking lot. He asked me if I heard it. I told him, so I didn't hear anything. I went inside the barbershop, sat down, and then I can't recall if he received the text first or if I received it, that there's an active shooter. There's an active shooter. Help. I love you, for my wife.
And what did you do next?
I looked for a gun. My barber.
Look for a gun. If I'm driving anywhere, I always have a gun. I tell people you should always have a gun. This is why you should always have a gun. You never know when you're going to need it. This is why government doesn't want you to have a gun, because now you have to rely on government to save you. So when you're taken hostage or your kids are taken hostage, government will keep you out of the school while your kids are getting slaughtered, and then they'll wait in a hallway with their guns that they tell you you can't have. This is the worst time and example for government to go after guns, because this case proves more, and our piece of shit Republicans should be standing up saying this is a perfect example on why citizens need guns more.
Barber said he had a gun. Both of us raced over to the school and met up there.
From your texts, it looks like you got there at 11:48.
Yeah, like I said, times, I have no idea on time. I just know I got there as fast as I could.
What did you see and hear when you arrived?
Just chaos. Chaos. Everyone was trying to get to the school. People were trying to get everything situated. I was just trying to get towards my wife's room and my daughter's room.
Okay, so chaos, I agree, no problem. I don't fault the cops. Anytime you arrive at any type of mass casualty or ongoing violent event, it's always chaos. But you don't worry about that. You do what you need to do. You help who you can help, but in an active shooter, your only job is to go kill the freaking shooter. Period. There ain't no waiting for all these cops who are saying the cops had conflicting orders and they didn't know what to do and they couldn't make a decision. Cops are chasing and shooting people every day all over this country, and they ain't asking nobody for permission. Suddenly, when kids are getting killed and there's a guy in there with a gun, 19 cowards sit outside and go, I was following orders, I couldn't go in. Bullshit.
Were there already police there?
There were some there already, yes.
And what happened? Did you just run in and start evacuating kids, or how did that unfold?
I was actually going over there, and then I went back to my barber's truck. He got me his shotgun. He gave me some shells. I put whatever shells I had in my pocket.
Because your barber is more prepared than you. A government guy who doesn't carry a gun off duty is barring guns. This is why you need to get a gun. This is why I tell people you should always have a gun. These incidents happen. They're going to happen. They're never going to be stopped. It's going to happen more, if anything. The more they take away guns from good people, the more this happens. And you know what? That's why you should always have a gun. I just can't say it enough.
And then I took off running towards the school.
Did you ask the police that were there, hey, can I go in? Did you check in with them? I mean, how did that happen?
It's a small community.
Yeah.
My wife works at Rob. Everyone at Rob knows me. Pretty much all local law enforcement knows me.
So it was a good old boy. You're allowed to save your child. Meanwhile, other parents are being handcuffed and pepper sprayed by DPS, proud state law enforcement, state trooper, Texas Rangers. They're being pepper sprayed, handcuffed, and arrested. But you're allowed to go in because you're government. You're in the club. You get to carry a gun. And the government doesn't want pesky citizens to have any of those rights and privileges. That's what needs to be taken from this.
Or I know the majority of them. So I was able to go in, and I announced who I was and made my way through.
And what happened next?
As I was going in, I could just see kids coming out of the windows and kids coming my way. So I was just helping all the kids out. I was trying to contact my wife, see where my wife was at. I can't recall if I was calling her or texting her, but then I met up with one of the officers there, trying to see what was going on. I tried to make my way towards the door. I wasn't, like I said, I didn't have any of my gear. I was off duty.
Okay, so here's where this guy, I mean, look, I get where he's coming from, but I don't get that he did. I mean, look, you got 19 cops there that are tacked up. They got all their tactical gear. They're ready to go in. They're stacked up. They've got the hallway secure, and you come up, plain clothes, no vest, with a shotgun that's not really yours. And they're all standing in the doorway. That's a tough position to be in. Should he have went in? Man, I don't know. I mean, I don't understand how he didn't say, what the fuck are you guys doing out here? He's in there. Let's get our ass in there. Why aren't we going in? Oh, we're under orders. We can't. Fuck those orders. He's shooting fucking kids. Let's go. Somebody kick this fucking door or I will.
So I didn't go in. I met with another officer there, Ruben, which I went to school with. And his wife is one of the one that got shot by the shooter.
Mrs. Morales.
Yes, correct.
He was there looking for his wife as well.
Yes.
And you were there helping kids get out, but you were looking for your second grader as well.
Yes.
Okay, if you want to go watch the interview, you can. I'm just, I'm getting a lot of misinformation. This guy was a hero because he went and got and shot a gun and he went in and kicked the door and killed the guy. That's not true. Okay, out of his own mouth, that's not true. So, look, it's easy. This is where I would call armchair quarterbacking, saying what's in this guy's mind. It's an active shooter. There's a bunch of cops there. I'm off duty. I got a barred shotgun. I got my kid and wife out, and I see a bunch of guys in a hallway where the shooter's inside. Second guessing what he should and shouldn't do, I don't know. I can say what I would have done. I'd have called those guys pussies. Who the fuck's going in there? Remember, these guys in the hallway had a shield, but they wanted to wait for a SWAT team. They had a shield, and they wanted to wait. That is freaking bullshit.
My wife.
All right, we'll end that there. Y'all have a good one. I'll keep updating this as I get more lies from the government, try to filter through it.